I see you smiling because there's real rugby back again this weekend.
URC is back, mate, and a glorious South African derby to get us back into the swing of things. It is only one game, but we'll take it.
It's a nice Saturday. We don't have to worry about Super Rugby Pacific and that international competition they call the Six Nations.
Yeah.
You called it, eh? You called Scotland to win, you called Italy to run them close, and you called Wales to go getting pumped.
I'm pretty sure I said England would thrash Scotland.
Did you say that?
I think I said that.
Just want to remind you of that.
I said Italy would be close. I was very surprised by Scotland. Disappointed in England more than impressed by Scotland. But obviously, great win for them. They played some good rugby. And then Italy, as much as they didn't get the result, mate, there were some glorious moments in that game. Not the least of which was Tyke Furlong pulling his parachute cord to come down from that scrum.
I think he's still somewhere up there. Air Furlong.
Air Furlong, exactly.
So is it just Ireland now calling for the scrum to be taken out of World Rugby? They want the two props dropped and then turn it into a game of rugby league, just to restart. Yeah. But the Italian scrum, which has been good for a period of time, they were good when they toured South Africa as well in that opening game. They got a bit beaten up in that second one in Cabrera, 45-0. And then they're competitive again when we played them, again a man down, when we played them on the end of the year tour. Rassie Rasmus did say, dark horse, to potentially come third. I think we've seen the best of Italy, though.
What were we building up there? Oh, look.
No, we haven't, because they still have to play Wales.
No. I think Italy have still got a surprise in their back pocket for somebody. I don't know who, but they'll beat Wales. They better beat Wales. But you have to root for a team with a tight head prop with the surname Ferrari. It's impossible not to want a team like that to win. I love those guys. I love those guys. I think they're onto something there, and they're playing smart rugby, and they're on the up. They are limited, obviously, in terms of their player resources and the sort of quality of that pool that he's drawing from. But in terms of Italy's capacity, Gonzo's going to get them to max.
Now, this was the big fight back from Ireland after the disappointment in Paris, 36-14 against the informed French team. And Andy Farrell, let's lay down the law. He said, "Coach, show us what you got. I need intent." And there was 10-all, I think, at halftime, wasn't it? And that's what Ireland came. That first 40 was their fight back. The swagger of 2022, 23, and even when they arrived in South Africa in 2024 is long gone. They don't have a pack anymore in terms of their scrum. They don't have a 10. And yes, they were spoilt with Ronan O'Gara and then Johnny Sexton. They basically were there for 22 years at number 10. They are struggling, and then they've got Frodo and his mates, so they're playing at 9. I mean, talk me through that one. How did that guy get a yellow card? And some people say it should have been a red. He was just standing up. He was just standing up, not standing up in the tackle. He was just standing up.
Who was it? I think Simon said he got sent off for being short.
Yeah, Simon Borchardt. We watched the game with Simon and Zels, and I actually watched a Six Nations game together at my place on Saturday. It was wonderful. Zels was like full of chirps. We should have been recording, and he was loving watching the Italians. I thought you were Portuguese, but that day
it's close enough.
Saturday was close enough. He was like, he wanted a 20-all draw at the end. He said because that would have been a fair reflection of where Italy is and where Ireland's going.
Correct. Well said. He said it better than I did, mate. No.
But Ireland, come on, give me a breakdown of what.
No, look.
Where are they? They're fifth in the world rankings.
Mate, we've spoken about the Shadow Realm. That team has not recovered from what South Africa did to them. There is a changing of the guard there. They've invested in Prendergast as their guy at 10. And, I guess they're counting on him coming through. I'm not sure that's the right way to go. But ultimately, the problems there are much more fundamental, like if you're getting scrummed by Italy to pieces with Tyke Furlong, a tight head prop getting launched into the air, that's a metaphor for where Ireland are at the moment. So that swagger you mentioned is their confidence. It's gone. And their foreign imports, the sort of clock is ticking there. James Lowe, Gibson Park, those guys can't play forever. And the question is who comes in behind them. There are some real Irish talents there. The O'Briens and the Osborns, I think, are good players. But it's up front. That's where you've got to find guys that maybe aren't quite as easy on the eye and maybe don't talk so eloquently, but will win an alley fight. And I think that's probably where Ireland are a little bit short at the moment.
But 10 remains their big problem there. And they really don't know whether to go Leinster or to go Munster. They've got a problem at 10. Just when you think Crowley's the man. Then they go Prendergast. Frawley's still in the mix somewhere there. Joe Carberry's injured, playing for Bordeaux. I think he could be on his way back. I think potentially to Connacht as well, where he wasn't wanted at Leinster when Stuart Lancaster was the coach, but he's going to come back to Connacht and compete with an ex-All Black Samoan international, Josh Ione, who's there. So some interesting things going on in Irish rugby. From a South African perspective, it's great to see one of our young kids, Rondebosch Boys High, Josh Neal, SA Schools, Province Under 18. His brother went over 2 years ago, has already played international cricket for Ireland. They qualify courtesy of Irish grandparents. Apparently they have extended family there. Played in Cork. He scored a try against Italy. He was the player of the match. That wonderful Irish accent that he had afterwards. I couldn't believe the guy asking him, did you really feel what the weight of the jersey meant? I mean, he's only just seen it's a different color green about 2 months ago. The one he was wearing last year. So
that was a bit of a stretch.
It was a stretch.
Yeah.
And, I mean, this kid was at Rondebosch Boys High. Basically, he had said he's going to the Leinster Academy. It's a decision beyond rugby. He wants to live in Ireland. His boot said the same thing. Great story there. His boot was in matric at Rondebosch Boys High, captaining the first team cricket, and he was picked for Ireland's under-19 squad to tour South Africa in his matric year.
Wow.
And played and kind of was one of the standout players. So a very talented family. A big loss to South Africa, especially South African rugby, when you look at the quality. You know, he was to the forwards what people say Marcus Miller is to the backs. Ireland will certainly be the beneficiaries of that. But within a year or two, you'll probably see him in that Irish national setup. There's no guarantee he would have been in the Boks setup in the next 2 years, when you think Evan Roos can't even get there.
Well, exactly, mate. I knew you were going to go there. No, it's 100%. I mean, if you are Josh Neal, then, you know, the opportunity of sort of guarantee pathway to the elite squad must be hard to turn down. As a player, all you want to do is play. You want to be in the biggest games on the biggest stages, and obviously, ideally, you want to be in the Boks setup. But the queue for those jobs is long, and so yeah, you know, wish him the best. And like you say, I'm sure we'll see him back on these shores in the not too distant future.
What do you take? 50 tests for Ireland or 10 minutes for the Springboks?
Oh, mate. I would probably take 50 tests for Ireland, if I'm being honest, mate.
And the 10-year tax break.
And the 10-year tax break, yeah.
Looking at Ireland, I mean, there's been a lot said. Irish Twitter's been very quiet of late. It's been most annoying. New Zealand Twitter's woken up when I turned to remind them that Super Rugby Pacific was nothing more than basketball and touch rugby. I was flooded with images of the Wallabies smashing us at Ellis Park. That was my point. We don't play touch rugby. And when we do try and play touch rugby, we get hammered. Okay, it happened for 20-odd years in Super Rugby. The 1 3-year period that we decided to play a bit of rugby, the Bulls won it every year. So we don't play touch rugby. We don't play beach sand rugby well. And when we have tried against Australia and New Zealand, we were ranked 7th in the world.
Correct.
So we went back to playing real rugby. And when New Zealand plays real rugby again, maybe the All Blacks will be contenders.
That's a great point, mate. And I think that point is true for a lot of teams. We're talking Six Nations. I think that's why I'm so excited about England. And obviously France have got the power to maybe have a little bit more latitude. They can physically dominate teams, and that allows them to do a few things. They've got unique talents in Dupont, who can kick a ball 75 meters. And they've created depth for themselves. But that's what excites me about a team like England, is that it seems like they've finally switched on to the kind of rugby that Eddie Jones took them to, which made them so successful for an extended period of time. Even though they didn't win it, they got to the final of that 2019 Rugby World Cup final. So there is a way to play rugby. Rugby is not like other sports where, so I always talk about American football. In American football, if you can't pass the ball, if your roster isn't set up, you don't have the players to pull off a big passing game, you can invest your resources in growing a running game and then be this team that nobody can stop. And all you do is run the ball and you control the clock, and it's very difficult for teams to contain you. But rugby, there is no escape. There is no blow of the whistle after every phase. You have to be able to do everything. And some of the things are fundamental to your success, like controlling the field. And to control the field, you have to be invested in the kicking game and be able to defend those kicks and contest those kicks. Those are like non-negotiables. You can have the best other stuff. And and you can try and squirrel away a win here and there. But as soon as there's parity in the quality of the teams, the team that is able to do the fundamentals is always going to win. And so I think for New Zealand, for the likes of Scotland, I think if there's nothing wrong with wanting to be able to do the dessert, but you have to be able to do the mains first. And I think they've sometimes been guilty of kind of skipping the mains to get to the dessert. And that's why there's a lack of consistency there. And so for New Zealand, you talked about Super Rugby. They need to find themselves in a competition where they are being tested in the kind of rugby that determines results at the test arena, not so much in the club scene, because they're not getting reps there. So when they get to the Springbok team and they're physically challenged, all of that fancy special stuff, that sexy stuff, doesn't change the results for them, unfortunately.
And we've also seen pressure. I mean, you talk about desserts as you were like lashing one of, I think, your 4th mini magnum, watching
delicious.
watching that last 50 minutes of would Italy come back and make it to 20 all. The thing there is you kept on saying they referee different games. Like close contact to the try line is refereed very differently to how it is once the ball leaves the nine's hands. Would you like to elaborate that for the layperson out there?
No, well, I was just saying, there's things that you can do between the 5 meter lines. So at the end of the field, the lengthways, there's things you're allowed to do, not allowed to do there that you can do when you're 5 meters from the line. So you can't jump over a player in general play. But if you're 5 meters from the line, you can hurdle a guy. They're going to say you're diving for the try line. The number of tackles that happen in that 5 meter space in defense of the try line that are no arms, direct to the head, yada, yada, yada. It's just play on. So I'm surprised that the graveyards are not full of rugby players who've had to defend in the 5 meter channel. But the point I'm trying to make is it's a completely different game. Once you get within 5 meters of the line, all the safety stuff goes out the window and the guys just play rugby.
Which is great.
Great.
We love watching it.
It should be like that for 100 meters of the field.
So we love watching a big 8 pick up the ball, bust it into some lock's head because they're half a meter off the ground. They're defending that goal line. We rave about that. What defense? This person is willing to put their body on the line just to make that tackle. And then Craig Casey's just standing there and he gets knocked out. And when they asked him what his name was, it was just to tell him he's got a yellow card.
Yeah.
And then the kind of vitriol that poor guy received, he should have lowered his body position to what? The ground.
He couldn't have loaded. He actually had to jump. I don't know.
To the ground.
Where?
Down into the dungeon.
No, mate.
No, which is ridiculous. And also again there, if anyone should have been sent off, it was the guy who headbutted him on the way through. There's got to be just common sense. We keep on saying it. Common sense, and there's got to be consistency. And it was, for me, what's been great about watching the Six Nations is I don't have a vested interest in the Six Nations. So you actually just find yourself unemotionally watching a game of rugby. So you kind of understand France went third gear and getting 54 points against Wales, but they have incredible athletes. The skill level of those backs. And when they have to turn it on physically, they can. We saw that in the first 50 minutes against Ireland. They can play that physical dominant game. What we saw about England was when the pressure was on for the first time in probably 10 matches, they folded. They lost a winner, which is not the end of the world to lose a winner. It's not like you lost a lock or you've lost a prop. And when they started edging back into the game, 24-13, they dropped, kick, charge down. They went to pieces. And I think that's what shocked me the most about that one. And then Ireland, just to sit back and enjoy a team that thought they were one in the world, thought they were going to be world champions, are now sitting where they've always belonged, 5th in world rugby rankings.
Oh, I love that, mate. I mean, that's fair. That's fair comment. I thought in that England-Scotland game, I think England, I mean, you mentioned their track record against Scotland in recent times. They've just got to stop playing that game with so much emotion. They're not a team that's built to chase. They're a team that's got to sort of build scoreboard pressure and then take advantage of the other team chasing. They got that completely flipped in that game. I think if those guys, the Scots had come out in red jerseys, England would have won that game comfortably. But they kind of got caught up in the whole Calcutta Cup, the history of it. They need to be unemotional and surgical in those games against Scotland. They've got all the right pieces to be successful there. But I just think they let that game get away from them. A very cold start, and then you were never going to catch up. Once Scotland got their tails up, it's game over.
And now is it Braveheart stuff? Is it going over the hill when they see that white jersey? Because they've beaten them 6 out of the last 7, and they've lost the one last year at Twickenham by a point. So it could easily have been 7 from 7. The greatest rivalry, as it was called as well, Scotland v England.
Well, you think that's the game they take most seriously, the Scots?
It's the only game they take seriously.
So,
that and the desire to beat the All Blacks.
And it's not a coincidence that they outkicked England, and then they got that result. And so what will happen is, based on the champagne of this one, they'll get loose and sexy, and that darts player 10 will have some fun with some kicks and some carries and some dubious decision-making, and then they'll lose games against, I don't know, maybe Wales.
People saying that Finn Russell's
Maybe
the best
Wales.
10 in the world. I didn't even hear what you said about Wales. Wales!
They're playing them this week, apparently.
Yeah. They'll be on a winning streak of 2. I can tell you that much. They
They
won't score 50 points, though. That will be the moral victory for Wales. Wales will not concede 50, and that will mean they ship 52 against Argentina, 52 against the All Blacks, 68 just before in last season, Six Nations, the last game against England, 73 against us, and 54 against France at home. Those are 5 home games against teams ranked above them. And the only team that they beat was Japan, and it took an 81st minute penalty from a TMO kind of interference, and the guy nailed it. And the only other game they've won in the last 25 was also in Japan, the second test match, where they had a full-strength side there because there's only one Welsh player with the British and Irish Lions, if you can call Wales a full-strength side. But, yeah, just unemotionally looking at that, where does the Six Nations sit in the context to the Springboks, in the context to a World Cup challenge in 2027, and obviously this Nations Cup that starts this year, where we try and give some meaning to test matches. So there's points for every test you play. So we play 3 in this country pre the greatest rivalry tour, if not the greatest rivalry one-off test match against the All Blacks, and then we play 3 at the end of the year tour. Where do you see it? We keep on talking France. Is it just France and England, or is there nothing else?
Yeah, so you say the Nations Championship. So that thing is always skewed by the time of the year that we play each other and where we play each other. So we play the European teams in November over there. Historically, it's been at the end of our cycle. We're about to go into our preseason for Super Rugby, and they're in the middle of their season. They catch us a bit cold, and we're in foreign territory with referees who I suppose haven't always been on the same page as us. And then the flip is true when they come to South Africa. We've just come off playing Super Rugby. We've got continuity. They've finished their season, but it's kind of the middle point of their year. And then they come to South Africa. They have to deal with the high fault, the heat, whatever. I don't know. So that is still a factor. But I think the Six Nations is to the Rugby Championship pretty much what Super Rugby is to the URC. I think the Crusaders would probably fit into the URC. The Crusaders at their best, or the Blues at their best, would fit into the URC. But I think the rest of those teams would probably struggle a little bit. Not against all the teams, but in general. And I think probably for the Six Nations, you're looking at France and you're looking at England. And I think Ireland have still got some special players, and they've obviously have still got some recent history of success. Italy are on the up, but not serious contenders yet. Wales are done and dusted. And Scotland are pretty plastic. They turn it on when they want to, but they can't turn it on consistently. So that's kind of how I see it. I think I'd be much more excited about rugby championship teams across the board against Six Nations sides in general. Like at a neutral venue, I would say Argentina could finish top 2 in the Six Nations, possibly. And that's arguably the worst team. I mean, the Wallabies have been struggling, but historically Argentina have been the bottom feeders. So I think there's plenty of talent in the Rugby Championship, and probably a keener understanding of how to win test matches.
If you look at the Six Nations, summarize for me the qualities you see. How good is this French team?
Compared to?
How good are they?
I mean, they're very good. By today's standards, they're one of the best teams in the world. But
what impresses you about them?
They've got power. They've got massive finishing ability. Bielbiarri, your favorite.
Louis Bielbiarri.
Yeah. The decision makers are electric and unique in their skill set. And then they've got all of that in depth. So it's not like they're relying on Tyke Furlong, and then at the end of his career he's airborne and he's not a factor. They've got 3 or 4 guys at each position who can. They are the Northern Hemisphere equivalent of the Springboks. So with the French, though, it's just the mentality, right? Can they stay focused on the job for a long stretch?
Now, if you look also the way he's integrated players, as Rassie Rasmus did last year, when he took a sachet and basically played him 6 tests ahead of Andre Pollard. It's a bit like what he's done. Sent Damien Penaud back to fix his attitude, his jawline, his hairline, whatever the case it may be. And he's picked a 21-year-old who was the star for France under 20s 2 years ago at fullback, playing for power. He's on the 1 win. Bielberry's just turned 22. He's now scored 24 test tries, I think, in 24 tests, or 23 and 24. And we spoke about it last week. 23-25 with a midfield in the opening game. That's the ages, and the guy on the bench was 20. And they were all unavailable, and he went with the Pau midfield, 20 and 22. And they started him next to Jalibert, and on the inside of those winners, and Ramos at fullback like that, just been there forever. And then you look at 9, obviously the Napoleon, the little general, he's back, giving himself 60 minutes because he's a selfless player. He comes off after 60 and he gives whoever else an opportunity while he's fighting his way back from that serious knee injury. And then you think, Leclerc's not there, Luca's not there. Baptiste Serran, who was the big star a couple of years ago, he's back in the mix. Looks sensational. I know it's Wales. You know, we take our 73-0 win. Everyone looks sensational. But just from that kickoff, the step, and off he went. And he scored. I mean, I think they are a great team to watch at the moment. I just love the way they're playing. I go back to their first 40 minutes against us in Paris before the sending off. And really, we found an extra game in that second half. But that first 40 minutes and what they produced against us for that whole match in that quarterfinal. I mean, they're the one side, even though we've won 8 of the last 9 against them, they're the one side that, if they played us, and when they do play us on the 3rd of November, there's trepidation as much as there's excitement that these guys could beat you because they're such a good side.
But primarily because they've got a pack of forwards that can dominate the collisions.
And they like to scrum.
So, I mean, if you had to take the Bok backline and put it behind the Wallaby pack, we would be talking every Monday about, can this guy really cut Dukes? I don't know. Can he play? I don't know. Because when you're getting bad ball and having to solve problems because of that bad ball, it's a very different game to just trotting downhill onto the ball and then feeding it out wide and going to go score. So primarily, France dominate because their pack dominates, and their backs are good and their backs are electric. But it's the pack first, and then it's the backs that finish. What do they say? The forwards decide whether you win. It's the backs determining by how much, or something along those lines.
Something like that.
Okay,
yes.
So it's that kind of a theme there, and I think that French pack is not only brutal but also has depth in Europe. What the French pack has to do is prove that they can do that against the best of the Southern Hemisphere physically, and that is a work in progress. And it's been made a little bit easier by New Zealand's decline and the Wallabies disappearing. But Argentina are physical and ferocious when they want to be. And they're also close to clicking in that same sort of space.
But you spoke about the key element, and the All Blacks for so long, and especially the side from 2011 to 2015 that won back-to-back World Cups. And just in the last 3 years, this Springbok squad, they're about the only two that ever found that consistency. Clive Woodward, 2000 to 2003. They didn't lose too many games, and they went everywhere and won, including going to New Zealand and Australia in that World Cup year, and they won one-off matches there in Wellington and also in Melbourne. But we look at an Argentinian side, we look at that French side, and you say, can they do it 16 times in a row? Can they go quarterfinal, semi-final, final in a World Cup playoff? And invariably, they haven't been able to do that, where the Springboks have, and their great All Black side did. And then to go post the World Cup like the Springboks have done post 2023 and really dominated 24 and dominated 25. I think that's what sets that team up to be spoken about in the same breath as that New Zealand side of McCaw and Carter. Definitely. 85% win record, winning rugby championships, winning overseas at the end of the year, and doing it comfortably. Those other teams haven't shown that they can actually do that.
But the masterstroke there is Rassie and SA Rugby opening the doors to say we'll pick overseas-based players, because it's just expanded the player group infinitely. It's ensured that a big chunk of our best players are being paid by overseas clubs, and has given Rassie so much more to choose from a pool that is in much more competition. So in the past, you'd have 4 teams in Super Rugby, or whatever it was, 5 teams in Super Rugby, and you'd have the Cheetahs guy knowing that the queue to the Bok number 12 jersey is 3 people deep already, and he's playing for a Cheetahs team that isn't going to beat the Bulls, Sharks, or Stormers, hypothetically. And so that doorway is closed. Whereas now, you've got Moni Lebok, he's playing in Japan. He's on the highlights reel every weekend. You've got Sasha Yeo with the Stormers. You've got Andre back in the mix, but he was in the Premiership. There's just more opportunity and more spotlight for everybody. So Rassie's not having to guess in any way, shape, or form. He's seeing everybody on display.
Well, I think the nature of where the game has evolved to, and as Rassie's always said, if you're 21, you want to go to Japan, I'm not going to pick you. because you haven't proven to me that you can play at the level that's needed. But if you're 26 and you've played 30 test matches, or you've played in the URC, Domestic Champions Cup, or you played Super Rugby when you were 18, I'm going to pick you if you're the best in your position. And when we didn't pick overseas-based players, or we put a limit on them, we were 7th in the world. Wales were clobbing us. We were the Wales. When Wales beat us 27-13, the headline in the papers was, "We're the real Springboks." Now, if you've just seen the difference that 3 or 4 players make to the Wallaby setup, when they bring them in, a Will Skelton, 1 or 2 others from the north, if you can imagine how much stronger England would be if they were picking a Jack Willis, or picking 1 or 2 players that are playing especially in France, in the top 14. So for me, and then New Zealand, 4 or 5 big name players that are in Japan, that could only add value. Richie Mo'unga being the obvious one, but a Brodie Retallick coming back at the tail end of his career. So what that New Zealand side got so right, 2011 into 2015, is how they integrated and phased out the oldies and integrated the newbies till they had 40-odd tests. So when Carter retired, Beauden Barrett and I think it was Aaron Kroon, or Beauden Barrett and David McKenzie, they had a lot of test matches that they played already, combined. And the same with what Rassie's done with the Boks now. You look at Andre Pollard, then you look at Sasha. He'll be potentially have played 30 test matches by the time he gets to the World Cup. And that's what hasn't happened with the other teams. And you're just starting to see it a bit with France.
Yeah, and then also on your point about players and playing overseas, and if England had to allow their players to play overseas and still be eligible for national selection, it's a bit like advertising. Sometimes in advertising, the spot that you take, whether it's on a billboard or a radio insert or whatever it is, isn't necessarily massively effective, but you're taking a space that your competitor now can't take. And so if England, France, Ireland, Wales, Scotland, all of their players, they said, open the doors, you can go play in Japan, you can go play, then suddenly the opportunities available to Springbok players to play abroad shrink significantly, right? Because now the Japanese might decide, you know what, we want to sign this flanker from Bristol, not the guy from the Bulls. Suddenly the opportunities reduce. So the Northern Hemisphere, all these countries that refuse to pick overseas players are actually helping our cause, because all of our players, our best guys, generally go overseas at some point in their career, and that only benefits us. And those opportunities are plentiful because those other countries refuse to release their players.
And I think Japan has been the greatest thing for us.
Big time.
Nearly every player who's gone there has come back rested, well-conditioned, having a zest for life.
Yeah.
Culturally kind of grown as human beings, being in a completely different land where the culture is completely different, the language is different, and they have come back and added value to the national setup, added value to players that are here. And then you get those ones who do go to play in France, who are eligible to play for South Africa. They just hardened for that season or two. They're playing top 14 or they're playing the Premiership. If I look at an Andre Esterhuizen and a Wilco Low, just the gains they got from being in Harlequins. So I think we are so far ahead of the rest of the world in getting it right by choice. Argentina had to do it by default. They had to, basically, when they had no more Super Rugby, all their players went off into top 14 again. But look, 1 year back into top 14, look how they settled. And all of a sudden, Argentina is being very competitive again with anyone they play against. And that France-Argentina rivalry is back.
And I think they've also, they're growing that South American Super Rugby tournament. So that next tier of player, the junior guys, are getting more reps at a higher level of competition. So you don't have a drop-off between the guy that's playing for Toulon and some 19-year-old kid who's been playing the equivalent of some just amateur club rugby. You're actually getting a guy who's been in serious competition.
Okay, so if we look at the Six Nations, we didn't expect anything from Wales. 65% tackle success. They're just not there at the moment. The one thing you think, if you outclass is try and tackle, they're not getting that right. It could be a system failure, but too many one-on-one tackles. Adam Beer, that kind of grubber that he put through when they won the turnover ball and France scored, just summed up Welsh rugby, and the memes have been plenty about that. Scotland, the success of Scotland, we spoke about it as you arrived at the office. I mean, it's in South Africa, okay? It's an Ike and a Marty. Carl Steyn, Marty's, Hugh Jones, Ike's.
Correct.
Now, how do you beat England? You just find a South African, or you find someone with varsity cup experience. Did they go to Sax by any chance?
Try and bring it in. And we started the show by talking about Josh Neal. Carl Stain's done exactly the right thing for his career, hasn't he? He's one of the world's best wingers now, I think, in many people's eyes. And that's only because he made the move. He was stuck here at Griquas for a long time. The move overseas has fitted him perfectly, and he's taken it and run with it. And kudos to him for that. So that does make Scotland tougher. But, I mean, yeah, I keep banging the same drum. I feel like if you are Scottish or Irish, you want to try and be picking players that were born in your country and really do represent your culture, I would imagine. It must grate having to say Carl Steyn and Pierre Schoeman if you're a Scottish rugby fan. But
especially because they're going to be back here as soon as their careers are over.
That's what I mean.
Living in Cape Town, living on a farm up north.
Yeah.
But if we talk about Stecco, precision,
Huey Jones,
power plays, sustainability, we've picked the big game, which was Scotland against England at Murrayfield. Those bagpipes were going. It was fantastic. I thought it was Richie McCaw up there with the bagpipes. But because he likes playing the bagpipes as well, while he's flying 737s or whatever. But our Stecco power play, I mean, there were so many great tries in Cardiff, but that was kind of like sevens rugby. It was a mismatch. And there wasn't anything too spectacular that came out of Dublin in terms of creative genius. But the definitive moment was the charge down of George Ford, the offload, and Hugh Jones, who's now scored more tries than anyone, any Scot, and scored more against England, and has always been prominent in those, like those 6 out of 7 wins. He's always been prominent. He's a bloody good rugby player.
He is a damn good rugby player.
Do you think he could have played for South Africa if he had stayed?
Do I think he could have or would have?
Would have.
I don't think he would have, no. No, but I do think he's a really, really good player, and I think he's milked his career for the most. Like, I think he's done a really great job there, obviously. And what he did on the weekend, again, another double against England. And him, it kind of speaks to his career. Like, that's just work rate and effort, right? He's there after the charge down. Like you said, one lone man in there to do the charge down, and right on his shoulder is Huey Jones ready for the offload. You know, it would have been one thing if that bloke had charged that ball down and got it, and look for offload, no one's there, but Jonesy was there, and I think that speaks to the character of the guy and his work rate, which is amazing.
So that gets us Stecco power play. It goes to Huey Jones. But you think about Scotland, and we spoke about Ireland, like they needed something in that second half. The guy said, one more scrum penalty and it's going to go to yellow cards. On comes Pierre Schoeman, the guy from the Bulls. Then they needed something in their backs, 12, their captain, Tui Pilato, Australia. Then they needed something on the wing, the guy can chase, Carl Steyn, Stellenbosch. It's a great Scottish team, isn't it?
I mean, it's just amazing. It really is. I think, like I said, I think I said it on the last show. If South Africa was just closer to the big market commercially, the Curry Cup, if we just brought all the South Africans back, we could have a 20-team competition.
But if you think Scotland now, and you think the Carl Steyns of the world, the Duan van der Merwes, who's joint record holder out on the win, Schoeman, Vierpinal, who went there, played so many test matches, was outstanding. Then you think of Ireland. You think James Lowe, Mac Hansen, Gibson Park, CJ Stander. It's not Irish and Scottish guys we're talking about.
Precisely.
And when you go back to when Wales was strong, where Graham Henry got it right in the beginning, they had about 7 New Zealanders. Shane Howarth captained the New Zealand Maoris. He went over and played for Wales at fullback. And when they tried to trace his heritage, that little church had burnt down.
But that's why
the little church had burnt down and there was nothing there.
I know you're going to dispute this, but that's why I've got, as much as he's not the first name on everyone's lips, that's why I've got respect for what Warren Gatland did with Wales. Because they were ferocious, they were physical, they didn't apologize for mauling, they ran at you, they made you tackle. They were a legit team. That is the blueprint. If you want to be a successful test side, what Gatland did in Wales, that's the way to do it. Clive Woodward did the same thing. It's Martin Johnson, it's Richard Hill, it's Lawrence Delallier. It's not sexy boys, it's hard boys. And that's the way to go forward. Unless you France, that just every once in a while unleash a behemoth 6'12" lock who can run the 100 in sub 11 seconds. Then, you've got some unique physical attributes there. But yeah, Gats got it right at Wales, and that is, like I say, the blueprint. You just got to be physical first. Forget the rest of the stuff for now. If you're Wales, your comeback trail is find guys that can tackle and want to tackle and will tackle and build from there.
Can Wales ever come back, or is this the end?
I mean, I don't know enough about Welsh rugby to say, but I mean, I think trimming the squads is probably the best decision in the first one. I don't know if one is enough. And then I would say open the doors. Get your players into the French top 14. Get them into Japan. Get them all over the world. Get as many Welshmen playing pro rugby as you possibly can. Because in time, you're going to be able to draw from a much bigger talent pool. And they're going to come back with lots of IP about how to win in different conditions.
All right, you look at that Six Nations. We've both enjoyed it, but we can't wait for it to end.
2 rounds in, it feels like 12 rounds.
It feels like, when is this tour going to be over?
Mate, no, I'll tell you what, I love watching Italy, so I'm all in on Italy. I love watching those guys play. I want to see them carry on doing what they're doing. I want to see how England responds to this. Quite keen to see whether Scotland can recover in time for their next games. And then Ireland, mate. It's like a car crash in slow motion. Like, you should look away, but you don't.
And you're in your second division, Georgia's, but Portugal's doing well.
There we go, mate.
As well. I mean, so you got the
No
Italians in the
surprises
first
there.
division, you got Portugal in the second division, so you're covered there. And then
Portugal's best 2 players are 7 and 11.
and you got Argentina, and I mean, you covered all your bases there. Ricky, you've covered your
Yeah,
bases.
everything.
Pepe, Ricky,
Yeah, all
you've
there.
covered them all, eh?
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Now, Super Rugby, we'll give it what it's worth, 1 minute. What a game between the Blues and the
Mate,
Chiefs.
let me say this, okay? So Super Rugby, when you switch it on,
You sort of switch it off.
no, there's a look and feel about it that takes you back 20, 25 years. When
Yeah,
you-
it's the jerseys they're wearing. They're
It's
wearing
the
the same
jerseys.
jersey. 30th year that they celebrated.
Yeah.
The teams have come out in their original jerseys. Only they couldn't bring the original players out. That was the key.
Mate, so I watched a little bit of a game. I can't remember which one it was. I think it was Blues Chiefs. And I watched for maybe 10 minutes. And in that 10 minutes, there must have been 8 stoppages for scrums because of handling errors and da-da-da. So Kiwi rugby just isn't where it was, unfortunately. And as much as we want it and we're willing it to be the Super Rugby of old, it isn't there. And until it comes back, it's hard to watch.
And that was the big derby at Eden Park. Blues against the Chiefs. Cortez Ratima got the winning try, 1915. It wasn't quite basketball. It was a lot worse. So,
Yeah.
But half the crowd wasn't there as well either. Maybe they were at home watching the cricket.
No, mate, I told you they were all at Run It.
They were running. Yeah, that is.
Now, there's a sport that's going to overtake.
Now,
rugby
if you
quickly.
can have those giants, like, basically assaulting each other, why aren't they playing rugby? I mean, they've got the guys with the appetite who want to run at you, not try and run around you or
But,
offload
I mean,
to
it's
a guy
a massively fast-growing sport. In their audience love it. The shares on social media through the roof. They're not worried about being sued. What's going on?
And no one's wearing like a scum protection.
not.
And there's no TMO who comes in.
There's nothing, mate. No refs.
Huh? What I'm seeing is a concussion.
I'm seeing stars, mate.
I'm seeing SARS. What's your name? I think I played for Munster.
No, look, I think that sport is crazy. Like, I would never want to be involved in that. But
You do love watching it, though.
But that's my point, is that if rugby seems to have been led commercially, you know, everything's been about commercial. We've got to expand the game. We've got to go into new markets. These guys literally took one element, one drop of rugby and turned it into a sport, and it's got massive eyes. It's an eyes magnet. There's a message in there.
The message is,
Bring back the physical stuff.
bring back the physical stuff. New Zealand can do that. They will always be contenders because they have the natural skill. Australia, when Dave Rennie was there, they were the most physical team. 3 out of 4 wins against the Boks. He really got under our skin. I still think Dave Rennie should be the All Black coach. They're going to go with Jamie Joseph, I think. But Dave Rennie, he had success with the under-20s. He had success with the Chiefs, success with Glasgow. And wherever he's gone, he does bring out the mongrel in teams. He would be brilliant. You know, if there was no Rassie in our game, that's the guy I'd be looking at to come. I think he would be ideally suited with South African players, Dave Rennie. For those who do follow the Japanese leagues, and SA Rugby Magazine gives you that great rap every Monday. Well done, Borchi and the team. Our South African Oaks, Malcolm Marx is loving life out there. He's doing well. Cheslin Colby is doing well. Jesse Krill's doing well, although his team's not doing as well. And then the interesting thing there, Fozzie and Steve Hansen, they're now 6 wins from 26.
Wow.
They've lost their 20th one in
Wow.
the last 2 seasons.
Wow.
With a fairly star-studded team and a star-studded coaching.
I can see why the All Blacks want them back, mate.
Yes, exactly. Why Razor wants him back. Like just straight swap Razor to Japan and then back to New Zealand.
Yeah.
So go on to SA Rugby Magazine. And also if you register there, you go into the draw, 100,000 Rand that you can win. We'll announce that in June. Or end of June, just before the international season starts. We're going to wrap it up, Zelzy, with Ellis Park. It's the Sharks against the Lions. Your favorite or your second favorite team, now that you're with the Stormers, is definitely the Lions. And have you got them to win?
I do, mate. They just edged the Sharks the last time. It's the rematch at Ellis Park. Bato Klikani, I'm going to keep saying his name, mate. I'm not sure whether Ruan Fenton's back for this one. I think he may be. I think the Lions are starting to piece it together. Bato adds a massive physical edge to their game. Still raw and things to work on, but it gives him a lot of credibility up front. And on the high fault, the Sharks, 2 big wins against the Stormers, and now they've got to back it up by going to Ellis Park. I don't know.
How much damage was done by the Bulls? That 50-pointer.
Yeah.
You forgot they lost by 50.
Yeah. No, I think the
You
Lions,
forgot about that game, man.
I think the Lions bounce back, man. I think the Lions are a very dangerous team, especially on the high fault. And I think the Sharks, having done 2 in a row against the Stormers, I'm sure there'll be a lot of celebration around that. I think the Lions would have just been sitting quietly waiting for this one. So
All right.
I'm keen to see how it goes. What do you think?
Well, I think the Sharks will win because I've become a great fan of the Sharks.
Okay. Okay.
Ever since they beat my beloved Stormers, I've become a fan of the Sharks because I'll give them their dues. They
We need
backed
to
it up.
save this clip.
They backed it up. They won in Cape Town and they went to Durban, and I thought they won more decisively in the context of that game. And I'll applaud that. You take it on the chin and say, we'll see you, hopefully not in a quarterfinal, but we'll see you in the year 2027. We've had a very good look at ourselves. I know that the Lions traditionally trouble the Stormers. It's like a bit like Scotland and England. You've got that game in a fortnight's time, and then the big one, Loftus, Zelzi, you and I will be there because it's a wonderful, wonderful place to go to watch rugby. Pretoria, the most knowledgeable crowd in the world when they get one in. And if you add your genius there and my enthusiasm, it'll just be a great day at Loftus. We go watch the Stormers play against the Bulls. It'll be the big game of the URC. But before that, we've got a big one in Johannesburg, 1400 kickoff. Zalzi will be giving you his score prediction on the WhatsApp channels closer to the time, probably Thursday. Once he sees the teams, I'll be doing the same. But for now, I know he's got the Lions and I've got the Sharks. And is there anything you want to say to the people out there?
Lions by 4.
I said wait till Thursday.
I've done it already.
You just don't want to do that video, do you? Lions by 4. But enjoy Stormers training. I believe you guys are back in the saddle again.
Achieva Daimani's back in the building, mate. What an absolute pleasure to see him back. Good things on the horizon.
Oh, that's fantastic, eh? Great to have him back as well. So it's like Sia didn't last at Rassie, wanted to come back. He didn't last, wanted to come back. Trevor Yankani wanted to come back as well. So they had their 1 year in Paris. They've come back to the City of Love. Sia gets here next year. Achieva back. Oh, so many good loose forwards. So much to look forward to. Not necessarily Six Nations, not necessarily Super Rugby Pacific, but there is one URC game. It's the Lions against the Sharks. It is at Ellis Park, 1400. Don't miss it.